Mm. All right, so you're gonna want all of your cozies as usual, your pillows, your blankets, all the things. Um, today will be kind of a continuation of what we did or complement to what we did in our vinyasa practice. So if you didn't get a chance to check out your vinyasa practice from Tuesday, I recommend trying that and seeing how they kind of work together. So we'll start off on our backs. You might pad the back of your head with a blanket if you like. We'll take a few moments on our backs to just kind of settle in and check out the spine. We've been really exploring the hips. We'll want to have things kind of close by to prop the hips up on. And like I always say, the body is a system. Everything is connected. And so we'll see how that plays into things like rotation and sensations in the low back, inner thighs, outer thighs, all those things. So let's take the feet wide. Okay, so knees bent, feet planted, feet wide on your mat. Knees knock in towards one another. One hand to the belly, one hand to the rib cage. Let's take several deep breaths here. Just start to tap into how you're feeling today. What do you notice about your energy level? What do you notice about your ability to become still? Like, is it uncomfortable here on your back? Do you feel fidgety? Do you feel anxious? Do you feel peaceful? Do you feel relaxed? What do you feel? And then awareness to the breath now. So deep breath in through the nose. Maybe you're closing your eyes. Out through the nose. So in through the nose, deep breath in. A slight pause at the top of that inhale, just a little bit of breath retention. And then exhale fully, deeply. And slight pause at the bottom of that exhale, a little bit of retention at the bottom. Twice more like that. Deep breath in. And then when you're full of breath, just pause. And then exhale, nice and smooth, nice and slow. When you can't exhale anymore, slight pause at the bottom. And then I'll invite you to return to that breath practice when we get into our holds. But for now, just let that go. Neutral breath in and out through the nose. Start to sway the knees side to side. So keep those feet wide on your mat and just knock the knees side to side. And notice how that feels around the hips. Inner thigh, outer thigh, low back glutes, front of thigh hip flexors. All right, so we're gonna need something that's kind of like a pillow or a stack of pillows or a stack of blanket, and just slide that right up next to your left hip. Hug your right knee into your chest, extend your left leg out long. Give a little pull there with your hands around your right knee or the back of the right thigh. And then let's take that into half happy baby. So you might reach for the back of the knee, pull that right knee wide. If you can reach the foot, go for it. You don't have to though. It's still happy baby, half happy baby, even if the hand doesn't reach the foot. Stay so anywhere along the back of the right leg or the right foot. And then just a little bit, take your left hand and kind of encourage that left thigh hip flexor to just straighten out, lengthen out. And then I like to actually flex my left foot, flex my toes towards my face. Even if my left heel pops up off the ground, I'm just actively starting to lengthen out through my left leg. And then you can relax there. Now with your left hand, okay, so your left hand is going to reach for the outer right leg and pull that right leg across the body. You're going to roll onto your left hip for where your little pile of blankets or pillows is waiting for you. You can hook your right knee, ankle, inner thigh around that pile of blankets. You can always add more. And then extend the right arm off to the right side. So we're in a pretty deep rotation. Pretty deep rotation here. How is this related to the hips? Well, everything is connected. So you might feel this in the lower legs. You might feel this in hamstrings and glutes, inner thighs if internal rotation sometimes is challenging. You might notice that here. Be here on this side for about 3 minutes. I find it helpful to add a little bit of weight. If you have extra blankets or pillows, add a little bit of weight to the outer right thigh to encourage that leg. And remember, you're supporting underneath that right knee. You're supporting. So it's not like you're pressing in over rotation. You're not pressing that right knee to the floor. You're supporting it. Okay. And so adding a little extra weight to the outer right thigh is okay in this scenario. And then same thing with that right shoulder. Ideally, you get it grounded on something solid. That might be a prop. It might be the mat if it's there. But instead of leaving that right arm floating out in space, slide a prop underneath it. Spend some time in silence here. And the silence is when I encourage you to check back in with that breath, breathing in fully deeply. As much as you can, breathe in. When you're full of breath, pause at the top just for a second. It's not a long hold. And then fully, deeply breathe out as much as you can. All the air goes out. And slight pause at the bottom, just a second or two. We have about 4 more deep, slow belly breaths here. And then we'll start to unwind. We'll slowly start to unwind. So be really gentle because it's a pretty deep rotation. And take a moment to adjust your hips so they're back in the center of your mat. You can choose to stretch your legs out long, or you can bend your knees, plant your feet wide, and knock your knees side to side a few times. We're just taking time in kind of a neutral position, something in center before we head to the second side. So try not to be in a hurry. Try to stay with me. And now we're going to move whatever prop we were using next to our left hip off to the right hip. Make sure it's going to be high enough for you so that you can fully rotate without that left shoulder really picking all the way up off the floor. And just remember that you can also support it too if it does. All right, so let's extend the right leg. Let's hug the left knee into the chest. Give it a little squeeze, pull a little bit with the biceps. Lengthen it out through that right leg. And then we'll turn that into half happy baby on that left side. So we'll see if we can reach for somewhere along the back of the leg, left hand, or your left hand could hold your left foot. And then we'll take the right hand to the right thigh. A little bit, just kind of like, I kind of think of it like I'm petting my thigh. So I'm just encouraging a little bit more length on the right leg. Get a little bit active through the right leg, like you were standing on the ceiling. Flex your toes towards your face. Press that foot towards, like if you're standing up, so you're fully flexed through that ankle. And then we're going to use our right hand. So our right hand's going to reach somewhere along the outer left leg. We're going to use the right hand to pull ourselves onto our right hip. Hook that left knee, ankle, thigh over the top of your prop, whatever you're going to use. And then reach your left arm back off to the left side. See if you can get grounded in your left shoulder, supported in your rotation. And then you can add some weight if you like to the outer left thigh. That means it's not required, it's just an option. We have about 3 minutes here. Here's where you might add that breath work. So fully deeply breathing in as much air as you can through the nose. Nice big inhale. When you're full of breath, you can't take any more air in. Pause at the top of that for just a second. And then take your time on your exhale, nice and slow. Kind of meter the air out through the nose. That's why it's helpful to breathe in and out through the nose because it slows the breath down. It's like pause at the bottom of that exhale. We have about 4 more of those slow, deep belly breaths. And we'll slowly start to unwind. Take your time with that, go slow. Adjust your hips back to the center of your mat. Feel free to lengthen out through the legs for a few breath cycles, or you can keep the knees bent, feet planted wide, and knock the knees side to side. Kind of depends on what you need. What are you craving? About 3 deep breaths here. All right, so the next thing we're going to do will be for hip flexors. Probably you're going to feel this in your low back too. I shouldn't say probably. I'd say that it's not uncommon. So let's take a moment and sit up. If you used a blanket underneath the back of your head, remove that. You can use pillows or folded blankets here, but here's how I'm going to use this. I'm going to take this blanket, so it was like in a wide square, and then I'm going to fold it in half once, so it's just like hot dog style, and that's going to go underneath my pelvis. So I'll lay on back. Nothing's underneath me at the moment. I'm going to lay back, bend my knees and plant my feet. I'll lift up enough through the pelvis so that I can slide that blanket underneath the pelvis, and you can use as much height as you want. Let's hug that left knee into the chest, extend the right leg long. A little bit more of a stretch for the hip flexor. And then we'll switch sides. So we'll hug the right knee in and extend the left leg long. A little bit more of a stretch for the hip flexor on that side. You might notice the difference between right and left. You could certainly use a block here. That's going to probably intensify the sensation. We're going to just extend both legs out over whatever prop we're lying on. And then I encourage you, if you want to, add weight to the belly. So we're encouraging length through front body, a little bit of a back bend through back body. You need to change the height of your prop underneath you. Go ahead. Any point in time you need to adjust that, go ahead. It'll start to settle in. We'll relax the shoulders down the back. We'll slightly tilt the chin towards the chest. Get nice and long through the neck. Find a comfortable position to rest your arms. Once you find that sweet spot, I invite you to return to that long, deep breath in. Slight pause at the top of that inhale breath. And that long, slow exhale out with a slight pause at the bottom of that exhale breath. Have about 2 more minutes here. We'll take our last 4 deep breaths in this shape. You still got your legs stretched out long. We'll start to bend the knees and plant the feet. A little bit press down into your feet, lift your hips up, tuck your tailbone under, and then set your back down so you have a little bit more of the low back rooted. And then just sway the knees side to side here. You can always remove that prop underneath the pelvis if it's inhibiting your movement. And then I'm going to give you 2 options for our last shape. So one would be a seated forward fold. So it'll be a forward flexion of the hips. And so if you're going to take that shape, sit up. Highly recommend having a little bit of height underneath the hips. So maybe it's that folded blanket, maybe it's something a little bit higher. You can also take folded blanket underneath the backs of the knees to keep the knees slightly bent. And then pile some props in between belly and thighs to make that forward flexion just a little bit easier on the spine. Okay, so that's option number 1. Whew, that is intense. Some days it's more intense than others, I'll tell you. Bodies are different from day to day. Second option, legs up the wall, which can be so much more accessible if that forward flexion of the spine in particular, like upper back, neck, low back, is just way too intense. Legs up the wall. You could also create that if you don't have wall space by just piling a bunch of props underneath the calves. And that's going to put your hips into flexion like they are right now in this forward fold. We're going to spend about 3 minutes here. So again, you want to make sure it's sustainable, always adding support and props to your practice to make sure it is going to be sustainable for you. And remember, give yourself permission to back out and choose something different if what you're choosing isn't working. We're always going to feel sensation where the tissues are tightest first. I feel like this is so highlighted in something like a forward fold, especially the seated variation of this shape. So important. Here's where it's so important to elevate the hips, elevate the hip bones, add more height underneath your sits bones. And then again, if that's not working for you, take legs up the wall, come onto your back, add pillows, blankets underneath your knees, underneath the calves, underneath the feet. A chair works really well for that. You can just swing your legs over the edge of a chair. If you haven't started that deep breathing with the pause at the top and the bottom, I invite you to do that here. We'll take our last 4 breath cycles in their current shape. And if you have legs up the wall and you're really comfortable and you want to stay there for your Shavasana, please, by all means, do so. But if you're with me in the seated forward fold, 2 more breaths here. And then slowly start to back your way out of that. Take a moment if you're seated, sitting, just lengthening out through the spine at the top of your seat. And then we're going to choose something that feels really good and nourishing for our 1-minute Shavasana. That could be seated meditation. Again, you can keep legs at the wall if you're already there. You can simply lie down on your back. All right. So let's settle in here. Let's take a deep breath in through the nose. And then open your mouth, exhale the air out. Relax your shoulders down your back, soften your elbows, close the eyes if you like. Let it go, let it rest. Shavasana. Feel free to stay longer in your Shavasana if you have the time. You need to move on with your day. Start to add movement to fingertips and toes. Move your head side to side. Stretch the arms overhead. Big full body stretch. And then rolling off to a side. Start to press your way to an upright seat. We'll just take a moment to sit up nice and tall, support the sits bones, close out our practice. So deep breath in, get tall through the shoulders. Sorry, tall through the spine, grow tall through the head. Relax your shoulders. And finally, joining the hands together at the heart, bowing the chin into the chest, taking a moment to honor your practice with reverence and gratitude. To all of our teachers, past, present, future, to the teacher within your own heart, namaste. Thank you so much for joining me today, yogis. Hope you enjoyed. Please come back again soon. As always, let me know if you have questions. I so enjoy sharing this practice with you, so thank you.